My daughter, Emma, changed her number and blocked me, leaving me feeling like a ghost in my own life, a haunting silence where laughter used to echo. But I refused to let despair consume me. I wasn't ready to give up on the bond we once shared, the connection that had been built on years of love and sacrifice. So I decided to take a leap of faith. I mailed her the childhood drawing she once promised to keep forever, hoping it would spark a flicker of recognition and warmth in her heart. This is the story of how I chose to reach out and fight for our relationship, even from the depths of my loneliness. Before I dive into this journey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what thoughts are on your mind. If you feel moved by my story, consider subscribing. It fuels my resolve to share this truth. Now let's begin. My daughter, Emma, changed her phone number to block me. That simple act felt like a dagger twisting deep inside my chest, a rejection so raw it left me breathless. I remember the day I found out, sitting alone at the kitchen table, my hands trembling as I stared at my phone, hoping for a call or even a text from her. But there was nothing. The number I had called so many times was suddenly disconnected, replaced with silence. It was as if she had erased me from her life. I am Linda Parker, a mother who once shared everything with her daughter, and this is the moment our bond fractured. For years, Emma and I were inseparable. We shared laughter, tears, and dreams. She was my heart, my reason to keep going through the hardest times. But now that closeness seemed like a distant memory, slipping further away with every unanswered call. When I discovered she had deliberately changed her number, the sting of rejection overwhelmed me. Why would she want to cut me out so completely? Had I done something wrong? The questions swirled inside me, but the silence was louder than any answer I could find. I refused to let this silence define us. Our relationship was never simple, but it was built on a foundation of love and shared moments I was determined to hold on to. I thought back to the many times we had promised each other that no matter what happened, we would always find a way back. Now, with the phone number gone, I wondered if those promises still meant anything to Emma. As I sat in my quiet home, memories flooded my mind. I remembered the drawing Emma and I had made together when she was just a little girl, a simple sketch of a tree with bright green leaves and colorful birds perched on its branches. She had treasured that drawing, insisting that it was a symbol of our bond and promising to keep it forever. For years I had kept it safe in a special box, a reminder of the closeness we once shared. The thought struck me, maybe this drawing could reach her when my words could not. Maybe a tangible piece of our past could soften the barriers she had raised. I didn't expect it to solve everything, but it was a start, a way to remind Emma of the love that still existed, even if she had tried to hide from it. I sat down at my desk and carefully wrapped the drawing in tissue paper, then placed it inside an envelope. My hand shook as I addressed it to her last known address, hoping against hope that the mail would find her. As I sealed the envelope, a mix of hope and fear settled in my chest. What if she never opened it? What if this gesture only pushed her further away? But I knew I had to try. I owed it to us both. The days that followed were some of the hardest I had ever faced. Every time the phone rang, my heart leapt, only to sink when it wasn't her. I checked the mailbox obsessively, longing for a sign that she had received the drawing, that she was thinking of me. The silence was deafening and the loneliness wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. Yet, beneath the pain, a small flame of hope flickered stubbornly. I found myself reflecting more and more on our past, on the laughter, the late-night talks, the shared secrets. How had we drifted so far apart? Where had things gone wrong? I questioned myself endlessly, wondering if I had missed signs or failed to understand her needs. The weight of regret pressed down on me, but I refused to let it consume me. Instead, I focused on the memories that reminded me of what we once had and what might still be possible. In quiet moments, I spoke to the drawing, imagining that Emma could hear me. I whispered apologies for any pain I had caused and promises to be patient, to wait for her to find her way back. I told her how much I loved her, how much I missed her presence in my life. Those words poured out like a river, unfiltered and raw, carrying all the emotions I could not say aloud. Though the hurt was sharp, I clung to the belief that love could bridge the gap between us. I reminded myself that relationships are never perfect, especially between mothers and daughters, but they are worth fighting for. I thought about the years ahead and the possibility of healing, even if it seemed distant now. Friends around me noticed my quiet determination. They offered gentle words of encouragement, reminding me that sometimes the hardest journeys require the greatest patience. Their kindness gave me strength when my own faltered. I began to see that while I could not control Emma's choices, I could control how I responded, with love, with openness, and with unwavering hope. Each day I found small ways to keep myself grounded. I took walks in the park, letting the sunlight warm my face. I visited the little cafe where Emma and I used to go, ordering her favorite tea and imagining her sitting across from me. These moments connected me to her in an intangible way, comforting me in the midst of uncertainty. The drawing remained my secret weapon, a silent ambassador of my love and longing. In my mind, I pictured Emma opening the envelope, unfolding the delicate paper, and recognizing the familiar strokes of color that told the story of our bond. I hoped that seeing it would remind her of the promises we made, of the times we held each other close. Still, the fear of rejection lingered. I worried that the drawing might be discarded, ignored, or misunderstood. But I told myself that even if it didn't bring immediate reconciliation, it was a step forward. It was a way to say, I'm here and I'm not giving up on us. As evening fell, I sat by the window watching the world outside grow quiet. The house felt emptier without Emma's laughter, but I refused to let the emptiness swallow me whole. I chose to believe in the possibility of renewal, in the power of a mother's love to heal even the deepest wounds. My heart ached, but it was also filled with determination. I would keep reaching out, keep hoping, keep loving. Emma might have closed the door for now, but I believed that one day she would find the key to open it again. Until then, I held on to the drawing and the memories it represented, a fragile lifeline connecting our hearts across the silence. And I waited. Raising Emma was the most important chapter of my life, a story written with sleepless nights, endless worry, and unconditional love. As a single mother, I dedicated myself to giving her everything I could, often putting her needs before my own. I remember those early years vividly, the tiny hands I held as she took her first steps, the countless hours spent helping with homework, and the quiet moments when she'd curl up beside me, trusting me to keep her safe. I was determined to be the steady presence she needed, no matter the challenges we faced. Emma was always a bright spark, full of creativity and curiosity. From the time she was little, I encouraged her to explore her imagination, to express herself through art, music, and writing. I believed that nurturing her independence was the greatest gift I could give her. Our home was filled with laughter and the evidence of her growing talents, a wall covered with her paintings, shelves overflowing with books she devoured, and a little desk by the window where she spent hours drawing and dreaming. One of our most treasured memories was the day we created that drawing together, the tree with its vibrant leaves and colorful birds. It wasn't just a picture, it was a symbol of our bond, a reminder that no matter where life took us, we were connected. Emma insisted on keeping it safe, promising she would hold onto it forever, just as I promised to protect her. That drawing became a silent testament to the love and trust we shared. Life was not always easy. There were times when I struggled to balance work and motherhood, when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm me. I worked long hours, taking on extra shifts to provide for Emma's needs, new clothes, school supplies, and opportunities to explore her passions. I remember the sacrifices I made, skipping meals so she could have a hot dinner, declining social invitations to stay home with her, and setting aside my own dreams to focus on hers. All of it felt worthwhile as I watched her grow into a confident, independent young woman. But somewhere along the way, the closeness we once shared began to change. Emma started seeking her own space, her own identity beyond the mother who had shaped her world. I understood that was natural, yet it was hard not to feel the distance growing between us. I tried to respect her need for independence, but I also longed for the moments when she still needed me, when our worlds overlapped in laughter and conversation. Now, as I sit with the silence that follows her rejection, I reflect on all the sacrifices I made, wondering if they were enough, or if perhaps, in some way, I failed her. The memories of our earlier years bring both warmth and sorrow. I recall how Emma used to light up when she shared her dreams, how she trusted me with her fears and hopes. Those days feel like a lifetime ago, yet they are the foundation of the love I still carry for her. I think about the challenges she faced growing up, the times she stumbled, the moments she felt misunderstood or alone. I tried to be there for her then, offering comfort and guidance, even when it wasn't easy. There were tears, arguments, and tough conversations, but also breakthroughs and moments of deep connection. Through it all, I believed that love would be our constant, our refuge. Emma's creativity was always her refuge, too. I remember how she would lose herself in her art, how it was her way of making sense of the world around her. Encouraging her to pursue that passion was one of my greatest joys. I enrolled her in art classes, took her to galleries, and celebrated every achievement, no matter how small. Watching her develop her talent was like watching a flower bloom, fragile, beautiful, and full of promise. The drawing we made together was more than just a piece of paper, it was a shared moment of joy and connection. I had kept it safe all these years, tucked away in my most treasured keepsakes. It was my way of holding on to the bond we once had, a reminder that no matter the distance between us now, our roots were intertwined. As I think about Emma's decision to block me, a part of me aches with confusion and sadness. I wonder what pain or fear led her to push me away so completely. I want to understand to bridge the gap, but I also respect that healing takes time and patience. I remind myself that our past, filled with love and sacrifice, is a foundation we can build upon if she is willing. The sacrifices I made were never about recognition or reward. They were about love, pure, unwavering, and sometimes imperfect. I remember the late nights I stayed up waiting for her to come home safely, the early mornings I woke to prepare her favorite breakfast, and the endless encouragement I offered when she doubted herself. All these moments were threads woven into the fabric of our relationship. Now, faced with the silence, I hold on to those threads tightly. I believe that beneath the hurt and distance, Emma still knows she is loved. I hope that the memories of our shared past, the sacrifices and support, the laughter and tears, will whisper to her heart and remind her of what we had and what might still be possible. I have learned that love isn't always easy or straightforward. It requires patience, understanding, and sometimes the courage to let go and trust that the other person will find their way back. I want to be that person for Emma, the steady presence waiting with open arms, ready to listen and to heal. Though the present feels uncertain and the future is unclear, I carry the hope that our bond, forged through years of love and sacrifice, is not broken beyond repair. I hold on to the belief that one day, Emma will see the depth of my love and the sincerity of my desire to reconnect. Until then, I treasure the memories of our past, the drawing that symbolizes our bond, and the unwavering love that remains. I will continue to carry the story of our relationship in my heart, waiting patiently for the day when Emma is ready to open the door again. After learning that Emma had changed her phone number to block me, I found myself caught between heartbreak and determination. The silence from her was deafening, but I refused to let it define our story. I knew I had to find a way to break through the barrier she had built, to reach her heart even when words seemed to fail. The question was how. For days, I wrestled with different ideas. Calling her was no longer an option, the number was gone. Text messages bounced back. Emails went unanswered. Social media felt like a cold, impersonal space, and I feared that any direct message might feel intrusive or push her further away. I needed something that spoke louder than words, something tangible that could remind Emma of the bond we shared. Then my thoughts returned to the childhood drawing we had made together, the tree with its bright leaves and the colorful birds perched among the branches. Emma had treasured that drawing, promising she would keep it forever. For me, it wasn't just a piece of art. It was a symbol of our love, a tangible reminder of the closeness we once shared. Maybe, just maybe, sending it back to her could soften the walls between us. I carefully retrieved the drawing from its hiding place, unfolding the delicate paper with reverence. The colors were still vibrant, and the strokes held the joyful innocence of a time when our relationship felt unbreakable. Holding it in my hands, I felt the weight of memories and promises, and a flicker of hope sparked within me. I debated whether sending the drawing was the right step. Would she even want to receive it? Could it be seen as a plea or a reminder of pain? What if it made her angrier or more distant? The fear of rejection gnawed at me, but the alternative, doing nothing, felt unbearable. I had to try. With trembling fingers, I wrapped the drawing in soft tissue paper and slid it into an envelope. I wrote her name carefully on the front, taking a moment to breathe before sealing it. The act felt both fragile and powerful, a message of love that didn't rely on spoken words or digital signals but on the shared history that still connected us. Before sending it, I sat down to write a short note to include with the drawing. I kept it simple, heartfelt, and free of blame or expectation. I told Emma how much I loved her, how I missed the closeness we once had, and how I hoped the drawing would remind her of our bond. I asked her to know that I was here, ready to listen whenever she was ready to talk. Mailing the envelope felt like releasing a prayer into the world. I imagined it making its way through the postal system, crossing the distance between us, and finally reaching her hands. The thought both comforted and terrified me. What if it got lost? What if she never opened it? What if it was just another unopened door? In the days that followed, I found myself caught in a limbo of hope and anxiety. Every time the mail arrived, my heart would race, searching for a sign that she had received my package. I revisited old photos and letters, memories that reminded me of the laughter and love we shared. I clung to those moments, drawing strength from them as I waited. The silence from Emma was difficult to bear. It tested my patience and resolve. I battled waves of doubt, wondering if the drawing was enough, or if I had missed something deeper that needed fixing. Yet, beneath the uncertainty, I held on to the belief that love could find a way through even the darkest silence. I also began to reflect on the importance of patience and unconditional love in healing fractured relationships. I remembered advice from friends and counselors who emphasized the need to give space while remaining a steady presence. I realized that healing might be slow and uncertain, but it was worth every moment of waiting. In quiet moments, I imagined Emma receiving the drawing. I pictured her unfolding the paper, tracing the familiar lines, and feeling the warmth of our shared past. I hoped she would sense the love embedded in every stroke, the promise that no matter the distance, our connection remained. I knew that reaching out this way was risky. It left me vulnerable, exposing my deepest fears and hopes. But I also understood that vulnerability was the doorway to healing. If Emma saw that I was willing to be open and patient, maybe she would find the courage to open her heart too. As I navigated the emotional storm, I found solace in small acts of self-care and support. I talked to close friends who reminded me that love sometimes requires waiting without immediate reward. Their encouragement helped me stay grounded and hopeful, even when the silence felt unbearable. I also sought comfort in familiar routines, walking in the park where Emma and I had shared so many moments, visiting the cafe where we used to sit and dream, and keeping the drawing close as a symbol of my commitment to our relationship. These rituals connected me to her in an intangible way and gave me strength to keep moving forward. Despite the fear and uncertainty, I promised myself I would not give up on Emma. I would continue to find ways to show her that I loved her without conditions, that I respected her feelings and space, and that I was ready to rebuild the bridge between us whenever she was. Sending the drawing was the first step, an opening gesture that carried all my hopes and regrets. It was a way to say, I'm here and I'm waiting. And though the days ahead might be filled with silence and questions, I believed that love could eventually break through the barriers and bring us back together. In the quiet that followed, I held on to that hope tightly. I knew the path ahead would not be easy, but I was ready to walk it with patience and love. Emma's silence was painful, but it was not the end of our story. It was simply the beginning of a new chapter, one that I was determined to write with care, courage, and an open heart. Days stretched into long, quiet hours as I sat alone with my thoughts, surrounded by the stillness that Emma's absence had created. The silence was heavier than I ever imagined it could be, pressing down on me with a weight that made breathing feel like a chore. I found myself caught in a whirlwind of emotions, loneliness, confusion, and a deep ache that settled in my chest. Why had Emma shut me out so completely? What had I missed along the way? The questions circled endlessly in my mind, with no answers to grasp. I replayed our past over and over, searching for signs, for moments when things had shifted. I thought about the laughter we shared, the late-night talks, and the promises we made. How had those promises slipped away? I wondered if there was something I had said or done that pushed her away, even unintentionally. The uncertainty gnawed at me, leaving me restless and vulnerable. In the quiet of my home, I found myself drawn to the things that reminded me of Emma, the worn-out sweater she left behind, the photo albums filled with pictures of birthdays and family vacations, and most of all, the drawing we had made together as children. Each item was a thread connecting me to her, yet also a painful reminder of the distance between us now. I spent many evenings sitting by the window, gazing out at the fading light, thinking about the girl who once trusted me completely. I remembered how she would curl up beside me during storms, seeking comfort in my arms, and how we would talk for hours about her dreams and fears. Those memories were bittersweet, filled with warmth but tinged with sorrow for what had been lost. The loneliness was overwhelming at times. I missed the sound of her voice, the way she laughed at my silly jokes, and even the arguments that, in hindsight, were just expressions of love and concern. The house felt empty without her presence, and I often found myself reaching for the phone, only to remember that she had taken herself out of reach. I questioned myself constantly. Had I been too strict? Too lenient? Had I failed to listen closely enough, or had I demanded too much? The self-doubt was a weight I carried silently, alongside the hope that Emma might one day explain her pain. I longed to understand her perspective, to hear her side of the story without judgment or anger. In the solitude, I confronted the reality of our estrangement. It was painful to admit that the relationship I had cherished was fractured, perhaps deeply so. Yet, acknowledging this truth was necessary. It forced me to face my vulnerability and to accept that healing would require more than just my desire to fix things. I reflected on the promises we once made, to always be there for each other, to listen and forgive, to love unconditionally. Those promises felt fragile now but no less important. I held onto them tightly, reminding myself that they were the foundation for any hope of reconciliation. Some nights, tears would come unbidden, a release of the grief I carried inside. I wept for the daughter I missed and for the distance that seemed impossible to bridge. But alongside the sorrow, a quiet determination grew. I resolved to keep trying, to be patient, and to approach our situation with empathy rather than anger or frustration. I also began to understand the complexity of Emma's feelings, the hurt she might be protecting herself from, the confusion she might be navigating. I reminded myself that her silence was not necessarily a rejection of me but perhaps a reflection of her own struggles. This thought softened my heart and helped me move from despair to compassion. During this time, I sought comfort in small routines and moments of reflection. I journaled my thoughts, wrote letters I never sent, and sought solace in nature's quiet beauty. I found strength in the knowledge that I was not alone. Many mothers and daughters face similar struggles, and healing is often a winding path. I also reached out to a counselor, hoping to find guidance on how to navigate the emotional terrain. Our conversations helped me see that healing requires time, patience, and a willingness to accept uncertainty. I learned the importance of holding space for Emma's feelings, even if they remained unspoken for now. Friends offered support as well, reminding me to care for myself amid the pain. Their kindness was a balm, helping me stay grounded and hopeful. They encouraged me to focus on what I could control, my love, my patience, and my openness, rather than the silence I could not. As days turned into weeks, I found moments of peace amidst the turmoil. I learned to sit with the uncertainty without letting it consume me. I began to imagine a future where Emma and I could reconnect, where the silence would be replaced by conversation and the distance by closeness. Though the path was unclear, I was no longer paralyzed by fear. Instead, I carried a quiet hope that love, patience, and understanding could someday heal the rift. I reminded myself that relationships are rarely perfect and that the willingness to try again is a powerful act of courage. In the stillness, I held on to the memories of our shared past, the laughter, the promises, the drawing that symbolized our bond. They were not just relics of what was but seeds of what could be. I chose to believe in those seeds, nurturing them with hope and patience. Each day, I whispered a silent prayer for Emma, asking for healing and peace for us both. I told her that I was here, ready to listen and to love without conditions. And as I sat in the quiet of my home, I waited for her voice, for her forgiveness, and for the day when we might find each other again. The weight of Emma's silence was heavy, and the ache in my heart deepened with each passing day. Yet amid the loneliness and confusion, I found an unexpected source of strength in the kindness of friends and the wisdom of a counselor I sought out. Their voices became beacons of hope, guiding me away from despair and toward a place where empathy and patience could begin to heal the wounds between us. At first, I felt hesitant to reach out for help. Pride and fear whispered that I should handle this on my own, that admitting how lost I felt might somehow weaken me. But when I finally walked into the counselor's warm office, I discovered a space where my pain was met with understanding rather than judgment. Through our conversations, I learned that healing fractured family ties is rarely swift or simple. It demands time, patience, and a willingness to embrace uncertainty. My counselor helped me see the importance of shifting my perspective from seeking immediate answers or reconciliation to simply holding space for Emma's feelings, whatever they might be. I realized that my love had to be unconditional without pressing for responses or timelines. It was a lesson in surrender, but also in hope. Friends, too, played a crucial role. They listened without offering quick fixes, offering instead gentle encouragement and reminders that I was not alone in this struggle. Some shared their own stories of strained relationships, of times when love required waiting and forgiveness demanded courage. Their experiences reassured me that the path I was on, though difficult, was not without possibility. One of the most important lessons I learned was the power of empathy, the ability to try to understand Emma's pain without judgment or defensiveness. I tried to imagine what she might be feeling: hurt, confusion, fear, or anger. I reminded myself that her decision to block me was not a rejection of me as a person but a reflection of her own struggles. This understanding softened my heart and replaced some of the frustration with compassion. Preparing myself for this slow, uncertain journey was both daunting and necessary. I accepted that reconciliation might not come quickly or even in the way I hoped. But I committed to being there when Emma was ready to listen without blame and to love without conditions. This shift in mindset gave me a renewed sense of purpose and peace. I also began to see the importance of self-care during this time. Caring for myself was not selfish, it was necessary to sustain the love and patience I wanted to offer Emma. I made time for walks in nature, quiet moments of reflection, and simple joys that replenished my spirit. These acts of kindness toward myself helped me stay grounded and resilient. In conversations with my counselor, I explored the patterns in our relationship, how misunderstandings might have grown over time, how expectations may have clashed, and how both of us carried our own wounds. This deeper awareness helped me release some of the guilt and self-blame I had carried, replacing it with a commitment to approach Emma with openness and humility. My friends' support reminded me that healing often requires community. They encouraged me to share my feelings and not to isolate myself in the pain. Their presence was a reminder that love exists not only in family but also in friendship and shared experience. Knowing I had people to lean on made the journey feel less lonely. Throughout all this, I kept the drawing, the symbol of our bond, close at hand. It reminded me of the love that still connected us, even across the silence. I thought about how Emma might one day see it and remember the promises we made, the moments we shared. Holding on to that hope was crucial. I began to shift my daily routine to include moments of preparation for the possibility of reconnection. I practiced patience in my thoughts and kindness in my intentions. Instead of focusing on what I wished Emma would do, I concentrated on what I could do to be ready to listen, ready to forgive, ready to love without conditions. I also learned to let go of the need for immediate resolution. It was painful to accept, but I understood that forcing the issue could push Emma further away. True healing requires time and space, and I was willing to wait for as long as it took. This turning point marked a transformation in how I viewed our relationship. No longer was I solely a mother trying to fix what was broken. I became a fellow human, offering empathy and patience, acknowledging that both Emma and I carried our own pain and fears. In this new mindset, I found a quiet strength, a resilience born not from control or certainty, but from love's willingness to endure. I was no longer waiting with anxiety or despair but with hope and openness. While the silence remained, it no longer felt like an impenetrable wall. Instead, it was a space filled with potential, a space where healing could begin when Emma was ready. I resolved to use this time to nurture my own growth and to prepare for the day when our hearts might once again find their way to each other. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but I embraced it with courage. I knew there would be setbacks and challenges, but also moments of connection and understanding. I was learning that love is not always about immediate reconciliation but about faith in the possibility of renewal. With each passing day, supported by friends and guided by the counselor's wisdom, I moved from despair toward hope. I was beginning to understand that standing firm in love, even when it is hard, is one of the greatest acts of courage a mother can make. And so I continued, patient, empathetic, and ready, holding on to the promise that no matter how long it takes, love can heal even the deepest wounds. With the decision made, I carefully prepared the childhood drawing for Emma, pouring every ounce of love and hope into the gesture. The drawing sat on my kitchen table, softly wrapped in tissue paper, a fragile symbol of our bond and a silent plea for reconnection. As I held the envelope in my hands, I felt a mixture of vulnerability and determination, a cocktail of emotions that left my heart pounding. I wrote a short note to accompany the drawing, keeping my words simple and heartfelt. In it, I told Emma how much I loved her and how deeply I missed the closeness we once shared. I expressed my hope that the drawing would remind her of the promises we made and the love that endures beyond silence. I made no demands, only an invitation to remember and perhaps find a way back to each other. Sealing the envelope felt like closing a chapter while opening a new door. I imagined Emma receiving it, the moment she would unfold the soft tissue, see the familiar strokes of color, and feel the weight of years and memories wrapped inside. The thought both comforted and terrified me. What if she rejected it? What if it was ignored or tossed aside? The fear of that possibility settled like a stone in my stomach, but I knew that doing nothing was not an option. The morning I mailed the package, I walked slowly to the post office, carrying the envelope as if it were a fragile treasure. The clerk's casual "have a nice day" contrasted sharply with the storm of emotions swirling inside me. I handed over the letter, watching as it disappeared into the mail system, a small act that felt monumental. Returning home, I wrestled with a flood of conflicting feelings. I was hopeful yet terrified, vulnerable yet determined. I told myself that this was an act of love, a final bridge I could build, no matter how uncertain the outcome. I reminded myself that love is sometimes quiet and patient, waiting in the shadows for a door to open. In the days that followed, I oscillated between hope and fear. Every time I passed the mailbox, my heart leapt with anticipation, only to be met with silence. I found myself revisiting old photos and letters, seeking comfort in the tangible memories that bound us. The drawing, once safely tucked away, now felt like a lifeline, an unspoken connection stretching across the distance. At night, I held the drawing close, imagining Emma's hands unfolding it, tracing the lines, and feeling the love imbued in every color. I whispered silent prayers for her, hoping that the gesture would reach her heart. Yet, the uncertainty was daunting and the waiting tested my resolve. I wrestled with vulnerability, realizing that sending the drawing was an act of opening myself to possible rejection. It was a risk, exposing my deepest feelings and hopes without knowing if they would be received. Yet I also understood that true love requires such courage, the willingness to be seen and to hope even when the outcome is unknown. This act of sending the drawing became a turning point for me. It shifted my focus from anguish over the silence to a quiet hope anchored in action. I had reached out in the only way I could, offering a piece of our shared past and a promise of love that remained unbroken. I found myself reflecting on the meaning of forgiveness and patience. I realized that healing is not a linear path and that sometimes, the most profound connections are rekindled through small, tender gestures rather than grand declarations. The drawing was my way of saying I am here and I love you without pressure or expectation. Throughout this time, I leaned on the support of friends and the guidance of my counselor. Their encouragement reminded me that love often requires waiting with an open heart, even when answers are slow to come. They helped me navigate the emotional turbulence, reinforcing the importance of resilience and hope. I also focused on self-care, recognizing that sustaining myself was essential to sustaining my love for Emma. I took walks in the park, sat quietly with a cup of tea, and allowed myself moments of rest and reflection. These small acts grounded me, helping me carry the weight of uncertainty with grace. As the days passed, the envelope remained a symbol of my commitment, a tangible expression of love sent across the miles. I imagined Emma receiving it during a quiet moment, perhaps feeling the stirrings of connection that had been dormant for too long. The possibility, no matter how faint, filled me with cautious optimism. Yet I knew that the drawing alone would not heal all wounds. It was an invitation, a gentle reaching out, but the real work of rebuilding trust and understanding would come later, whenever Emma was ready. I prepared myself for patience, for waiting without resentment, and for loving without conditions. In quiet moments, I pictured the moment when Emma might finally respond, perhaps a call, a message, or even a simple acknowledgement. I imagined the relief and joy that would flood my heart, but I also braced for the silence that might continue. Either way, I was ready to accept her feelings and to meet her where she was. Sending the drawing was more than a gesture. It was a statement of faith in our relationship, and in the power of love to transcend hurt. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times, small acts of kindness and remembrance can plant seeds of healing. As I moved forward, I held on to that hope tightly. I knew the road ahead might be long and uncertain, but I was committed to walking it, one step at a time with an open heart and unwavering love. The drawing was my gift to Emma, and to myself, a beacon in the silence waiting patiently to be seen. The days after I sent the drawing were some of the longest I had ever endured. Each morning I woke with a flicker of hope, imagining that today might be the day Emma would reach out. I checked the mailbox and my phone obsessively, the silence stretching between those moments growing heavier with every passing hour. The waiting was a quiet torment, filled with doubt, sadness, and an aching hope that refused to fade. I found myself caught in a cycle of emotions. One moment I clung to the memory of our shared past, the laughter, the hugs, the kind words, and believed that those memories would be enough to bring her back. The next, I was overwhelmed by the vastness of the silence, wondering if I had been foolish to hope at all. Was the drawing just a forgotten piece of paper to her? Had I misread the strength of our bond? In those quiet, lonely moments, I turned to the photographs and letters we had exchanged over the years. I would sit and trace the edges of those images, remembering the times when Emma's smile lit up the room and her voice filled the house with warmth. These memories became both a comfort and a source of pain, a reminder of what was lost and what might still be regained. I often found myself whispering to the empty room, speaking to Emma as if she were there. I told her how much I loved her, how much I missed her presence, and how I wished she could see the depth of my heart. These conversations were my way of bridging the silence, even if only in my own mind. The uncertainty took a toll on my spirit. I questioned whether I had done enough. Had I reached out too late? Had I said the wrong things? The what-ifs haunted me, and I struggled to find peace amidst the storm of emotions. Yet despite the pain, I refused to give up hope. I reminded myself that healing is rarely immediate, and that sometimes the deepest wounds take time to mend. I tried to be patient even when patience was the hardest thing to practice. I clung to the belief that love, no matter how strained, has the power to endure. In those quiet hours, I found solace in small rituals. I would light a candle in the evening, letting its gentle glow fill the room with warmth. I wrote letters to Emma that I didn't send, pouring out my heart onto the pages, hoping that someday she might read them. These acts helped me feel connected to her, even across the distance. I also sought strength in the support of friends who listened without judgment and offered words of encouragement. Their presence reminded me that I was not alone, that many have faced similar pain and found a way through. Their stories gave me courage to keep hoping and reaching out. Despite the silence, I refused to let despair take root. I knew that Emma's silence was not a sign that she no longer cared, but perhaps a reflection of her own struggles and fears. This understanding deepened my compassion and renewed my commitment to love her unconditionally. I imagined the moment when Emma might finally open the envelope and see the drawing, wondering if it would remind her of the promises we made and the love we shared. I pictured her fingers tracing the colorful lines, feeling a stirring of emotion that might soften her heart. These imagined moments became my refuge. Yet, each day without a response was a reminder of the fragile nature of hope. I grappled with the possibility that reconciliation might be slow or uncertain, but I refused to let that dim my love or my belief in our bond. As I waited, I found myself learning to live with uncertainty, to carry hope without expectation, to love without conditions. It was a difficult balance, but one I embraced as necessary for my own healing and for the chance that Emma might one day return. The weeks passed slowly, marked by small moments of reflection and quiet endurance. I learned to hold my heart gently, protecting it from the sharp edges of doubt while nurturing the fragile shoots of hope. In the stillness, I found strength I didn't know I had, a resilience born from love's refusal to give up, even when the path is unclear. I realized that waiting is not passive but an active form of love, a testament to the depth of my commitment to Emma. Though the silence continued, it no longer felt like an insurmountable barrier. Instead, it was a space filled with possibility, a space where healing might begin, however slowly and imperfectly. I told myself that no matter how long the wait, I would be here, ready to welcome Emma back with open arms and an open heart. This promise became my anchor, steadying me through the storm of emotions. In those quiet, uncertain days, I held onto the memories, the drawing, and the love that still connected us. They were the threads weaving a fragile but unbroken bond, waiting patiently for the day when Emma might choose to reach out. Until that day comes, I will wait, hopeful, patient, and ready to embrace whatever comes next. Weeks passed in a haze of waiting, the silence between Emma and me stretching like an endless road. Each morning, I checked my phone with a flutter of hope, only to be met with emptiness. Then, one afternoon, a message appeared, a brief, cryptic note from Emma. My heart pounded as I read her words, "Got the drawing. Thanks." Just those few words, so simple yet so profound, cracked the wall that had seemed impenetrable. The message was far from a full reconciliation, but it was a sign, a small, fragile crack in the silence that had held us apart. It was a signal that she had received my gesture, that somewhere beneath the distance, she still remembered and cared. That brief acknowledgement reignited a spark of hope within me, warming the cold ache of loneliness that had settled in my chest. I read and reread her message, searching for hidden meaning, clinging to the connection it represented. It was a small bridge, but it was a start. The fact that she had taken the time to respond, even so briefly, felt like an invitation to continue reaching out, to keep trying with patience and love. That night, I sat by the window, the soft glow of the lamp casting shadows on the walls. Holding the drawing close, I whispered a silent thank you for this tiny breakthrough. I told Emma in my heart that I was here, ready to listen, ready to rebuild, whenever she was ready. The message stirred a swirl of emotions, relief, joy, and cautious optimism mingled with the lingering fear of rejection. I reminded myself to temper my hopes, to accept the moment for what it was without pressing for more. It was a delicate balance, embracing hope while guarding against disappointment. Encouraged by this sign, I resolved to continue my efforts with renewed patience and empathy. I thought about how to respond, wanting to honor her feelings without overwhelming her. I knew that rebuilding trust would require gentle steps, not rushed demands. In the days that followed, I found myself reflecting deeply on the importance of small gestures, of quiet acknowledgments that can open the door to healing. Emma's brief message was a testament to that, a reminder that sometimes the smallest sign of connection can carry the greatest weight. I also began to recognize the power of patience. Healing is not a race but a journey, often marked by tentative steps and moments of vulnerability. I reminded myself that Emma's response, however small, was a gift, and that I needed to receive it with grace and understanding. Friends and my counselor shared in my cautious joy, encouraging me to nurture this fragile thread of connection. Their support helped me stay grounded, reminding me that healing often unfolds slowly and unpredictably. Throughout this time, I continued to care for myself, knowing that sustaining my own strength was vital for the journey ahead. I kept the drawing close, a symbol of our bond and a reminder that love can endure even in silence. I thought often about the next steps, how to open a dialogue that would allow us to share honestly and begin to mend the fractures. I wanted to create a space where Emma felt safe to express her feelings, where I could listen without judgment, and where we could begin to understand each other anew. The brief message was a beacon in the darkness, a sign that the path back to each other, though uncertain, was not closed. It gave me hope that the distance between us could be crossed, one small step at a time. As I held on to this hope, I also prepared myself for the challenges ahead. I knew that rebuilding a relationship takes courage from both sides, and that there would be moments of pain and misunderstanding along the way. But I was ready to face those challenges with an open heart. That small message reminded me that love is resilient. It can survive silence and distance, holding on even when words fail. It taught me that healing begins not with grand gestures, but with the simplest acts of acknowledgement and presence. I promised myself to honor this fragile beginning, to approach Emma with patience, empathy, and unwavering love. I would listen deeply and speak gently, creating space for healing to take root. Though the road ahead was still uncertain, that brief message gave me the strength to keep moving forward. It was a reminder that even the smallest sign of connection can light the way through the darkest nights. And so I waited and hoped, ready to embrace whatever came next, grateful for the flicker of light that now shone in the distance, guiding us toward the possibility of reconciliation. Encouraged by Emma's brief message acknowledging the drawing, I found the courage to write back, a heartfelt letter filled with everything I'd been holding inside. I wanted to reach her in a way that words alone often fail to do, to express not just my love but my regret, my desire to understand, and my hope for healing. With trembling hands, I poured my feelings onto the page, careful to leave space for her voice, to ask without demanding, to listen without judgment. In the letter, I told Emma how much she meant to me, how deeply I regretted the pain that had grown between us, even if I didn't fully understand it yet. I shared my wish to hear her story, to know her feelings, and to be the mother she needed, not the one I thought she wanted. I promised that no matter what, my love was unconditional, and that I was ready to listen with an open heart whenever she was ready to speak. Sending that letter was an act of vulnerability unlike any I'd experienced. I felt exposed, hopeful, and fearful all at once. But I knew that honest communication was the only way forward. I had to trust that the love we shared could bridge the gaps created by silence and distance. Days passed before Emma responded. When her letter arrived, my hands shook as I unfolded the paper, unsure what to expect. Her words were raw and honest, revealing the pain, confusion, and hurt she had been carrying. She spoke of feeling misunderstood and overwhelmed, of the silence as a shield rather than a weapon. Reading her letter was like stepping into her world, seeing through her eyes and feeling the weight she bore. Her honesty stirred a mixture of emotions, relief that she was willing to share, sorrow for her pain, and gratitude for the chance to begin healing. I felt closer to her than I had in months, connected by the fragile thread of shared truth. Our correspondence blossomed slowly into a series of letters, tentative, vulnerable, and deeply human. We exchanged stories of our fears and hopes, our regrets and dreams. With each letter, the walls between us crumbled a little more. We learned to listen without interrupting, to respond with kindness rather than defensiveness, and to hold space for each other's feelings without judgment. Writing these letters became a lifeline, a way to rebuild trust and understanding. I found myself learning more about Emma's experiences and feelings than I had in years of conversation. She, in turn, seemed to sense my genuine desire to connect, to support, and to heal. Through this process, I discovered the delicate art of patience, waiting for her words, respecting her pace, and honoring her boundaries. I learned that healing is not about quick fixes but about consistent, loving presence. Each exchange was a step toward mending what had been broken. I also confronted my own vulnerabilities. Writing to Emma forced me to face my fears, the fear of rejection, of inadequacy, of loss. Yet it also opened my heart wider, allowing me to be more honest and compassionate, both with her and with myself. Our dialogue, though imperfect and sometimes painful, was a testament to the resilience of love. It reminded me that even the deepest wounds can begin to heal when met with empathy and openness. As the letters continued, I felt a cautious optimism growing. We were no longer strangers separated by silence, but two people willing to face the messiness of our relationship with courage and grace. We were building a new foundation, one rooted in honesty, respect, and the shared desire to reconnect. I imagined the day we might speak face to face again, where these letters would become conversations filled with laughter, tears, and understanding. Until then, I treasured the words we exchanged, knowing they were the seeds of renewal. Through this journey, I also learned the power of forgiveness, not just for Emma, but for myself. I realized that holding on to guilt or blame only hinders healing. Instead, I chose to embrace compassion, to forgive mistakes made in love and fear, and to move forward with an open heart. My friends and counselor continued to support me, celebrating the progress while reminding me to be gentle with myself and with Emma. Their guidance helped me stay grounded, focused on the long-term journey rather than immediate results. Each letter was a small victory, a sign that the bond between Emma and me was not lost but evolving. I felt grateful for the chance to rebuild, to listen more deeply, and to love more fully. Though challenges remained and the path ahead was uncertain, our growing dialogue gave me hope that healing was possible. It taught me that relationships are dynamic, requiring effort, humility, and the willingness to embrace vulnerability. In this new chapter, I no longer feared the silence. Instead, I welcomed the opportunity to fill it with honest communication and heartfelt connection. I was learning that the hardest conversations often lead to the deepest healing. With every letter, I was reminded that love is not about perfection but about presence, being there through the struggles, the misunderstandings, and the growth. It is about choosing each day to reach out, to listen, and to hold space for each other's humanity. As I folded each letter and placed it carefully in a box, I felt a quiet peace settle over me. The journey was far from over, but the path was clearer. Emma and I were walking it together, step by step, letter by letter, toward a future filled with hope and renewed connection. Some months after our letters opened the door to dialogue, Emma and I finally agreed to meet in person. The decision was both thrilling and terrifying. I had imagined this moment countless times, yet the reality felt overwhelming. Would the years of silence dissolve with a hug? Or would the weight of our past mistakes linger between us? I was Linda Parker, a mother hopeful to rebuild a connection with her daughter, and this was the moment to step forward. We chose a small cafe, a neutral place filled with soft light and quiet corners. As I arrived, my heart pounded, palms sweaty and breath shallow. When Emma walked in, I barely recognized the young woman before me. Strong, poised, yet carrying the same gentle eyes I remembered from childhood. Our eyes met, and in that instant, the years of separation seemed to evaporate, replaced by a fragile thread of recognition. We sat down, the table between us both a barrier and a bridge. Our first words were tentative, cautious, as if afraid to disturb the fragile peace. I shared stories from my volunteer work at the nursing home, a place that gave me purpose and joy during our estrangement. Seeing her smile at my stories, I felt a warmth spread through me, a sign that the distance was slowly shrinking. Emma opened up too, revealing fears and struggles she had hidden behind silence. We spoke honestly about the pain we'd both endured, the misunderstandings that had driven us apart, and the regrets that weighed heavily on our hearts. Tears came freely, mingling with laughter as we found common ground in vulnerability. As we talked, I realized how much we had both grown. I acknowledged my mistakes and listened deeply to Emma's feelings without judgment. She, in turn, expressed a desire to rebuild our relationship, step by step, with patience and understanding. It was a conversation filled with hope, forgiveness, and mutual respect. We made plans to volunteer together at the charity I supported, imagining how working side by side might strengthen our bond. The prospect excited us both, a shared purpose that could heal old wounds through new memories. On that day, watching Emma connect with the children, I swelled with pride and gratitude. Her laughter rang clear and true, and we shared stories and smiles that felt like the foundation of something new. Over time, Emma began reaching out more frequently, sending messages and calls that brightened my days. She surprised me with flowers, a simple yet profound gesture that spoke volumes of her affection and willingness to rebuild. We discussed future projects for the charity, envisioning ways to make a difference together, and I felt a renewed sense of partnership and love. One evening, we attended a fundraising event, surrounded by people who celebrated the children's achievements. Seeing Emma's admiration for the young artists warmed my heart. She expressed pride in my work, and I saw in her eyes a reflection of the daughter I had always known beneath the silence. In that moment, I knew our journey toward healing was well underway. Reflecting on this path, I marveled at how far we'd come, from fractured silence to open hearts. I had learned to prioritize my happiness while nurturing our fragile connection. The love that endured through pain and distance had blossomed into a resilient bond, strengthened by forgiveness and understanding. I felt gratitude for the support of friends and the community that had embraced me during my darkest days. Their encouragement had fueled my courage to keep reaching out, to keep hoping. Now, with Emma by my side, I faced the future with confidence, knowing that together we could face any challenge. This journey taught me that love is not always easy or immediate. It requires patience, vulnerability, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. But it also offers profound rewards: the restoration of trust, the rekindling of joy, and the deep satisfaction of healing a broken bond. Emma and I continue to grow together, learning from our past and building new memories. We volunteer, laugh, and dream side by side, grateful for the second chance we have been given. Our story is far from perfect, but it is ours, marked by resilience, hope, and the enduring strength of family. As I look ahead, I carry a heart full of love and a spirit fortified by experience. The road may still hold challenges, but with Emma walking beside me, I know we can navigate them together. Our shared journey is a testament to the power of forgiveness and the unbreakable ties that bind a mother and her daughter.